KILR Killer Games.
Hello gamers and simmers and pilots, I am the Killer Gamer and welcome back to the World Tour featuring Flight Simulator 2 for the Commodore 64. And we are here at Dubuque Municipal. And where are we headed? Let's talk about it. Dubuque, Iowa. That's where we are. So we are in scenery disc number 9, and we are right here, right along the Mississippi. And so we're going to be doing a VFR flight, just pretty much following the river. We don't need to use any VORs. We'll use this one here so we know how far we are, but this is where we're going. We're going to La Crosse. This is, other than Whitman, which we will be going to, just not yet, this is as far north as we can go. Not only with the Scenery Disc 9, but with the Sublogic Scenery Discs, period. Because there's no coverage after that. And I will show you. So as you can see, what's highlighted, number 9 there, right above that is number 10, and that was never made. That whole area was never made. If it was, I sure can't find it. But unfortunately, I don't know, it can't be found. Now, if there is a homebrew person out there that can, I don't know, maybe reverse engineer one of the scenery discs and see how it's coded, and maybe work with someone, heck, work with me, for that matter, and enter in major airports in that area. You know, maybe us fans can help complete the United States that wasn't completed before. Maybe we can complete the missing scenery disc, which was 8, 10, and as far as 12 was made, but it wasn't made for the Commodore 64. So it was made for the Amiga, and it was made for the PC, and I'm trying to get my hands on a PC copy with a list of airports and nav aids to at least let me know where that coverage is at. But yeah, if there was a way that someone could actually put that in, I mean, what is it? It's just lines and stuff like that. So I mean, if someone knows how to code that stuff, I mean, after all these years of the Commodore 64 being out, there's been some very impressive stuff that's come out, homebrew wise. I'd like to think that someone would be able to help finish this work. Maybe even continue it. You know, maybe actually do Canada and South America or something like that. Then again, they may think, well, who's going to be flying this thing? But well, I am. At least finish what was not completed. You know what I mean? At least finish those areas, 8, 10, and 12 for the Commodore 64. So there's at least a complete package. That would be great. I would definitely make use of it. I would definitely make videos and fly those areas. So I don't know. And maybe if they were made, maybe it would bring some interest back to Flight Simulator 2. Maybe not much, but the fact that those missing scenery discs would be made, I don't know. It's just a possibility. That's all I was thinking. So for anyone who's watching this and knows anyone that's really good with programming, hey, meow. My cat's talking to me. Think about it. You know, maybe we can work together and we can come up. I can look at, you know, basically I can look at the if we go to, let's say, Microsoft Flight Simulator 5.1 and look at the list of airports in that, then we can kind of go backwards and say, okay, let's put maybe not that many airports, but let's go through those airports and pick the ones that would be somewhat the major ones and that would be well spaced out to cover that particular area. Well, that's my ramble. So let's go ahead and get ourselves started here. We want La Crosse 108.4. I just think it would be a neat project if someone actually did it. I think what I'd like to do, just to kind of get an idea of where we are along the path. Let me pull this back up again. We'll tune into this Wacom here and the 90 radial, and when we actually pass this radio, we'll know whereabouts we are. It's a little bit more than half the way there. Of course, we'll have our DME hopefully, but this will also give us a sign as well. It's going to kind of swing out this direction and then back. So why don't we? We'll tune this in here. That's 118. No, 116.6. All right. La Crosse. Let's go ahead and make that. I want to take a look at the runways. Which runways do they have here? La Crosse. Oh, it doesn't say. It does have fuel there, of course. There's no ATIS, no ILS or anything like that. Oh, stop. Let me go to airnav.com here. Let's look up La Crosse. That'll tell me what the runways are. La Crosse Regional Airport, Wisconsin. That sounds about right. Yep, that looks like the place. Based on the map. Based on the design, that looks like it also. And there is a runway 36. Good. So we're going to change our VOR1 to 360. Oh, we'll go this way. That should help us get lined up with the runway. Okay. And lastly, what is the altitude there at La Crosse? 653. All right, with that, I think we are ready to go. We'll take a look at our radar here. Let's take a look at the runway we want to take off from. This is going to be 90. Okay, so that's the runway we want to take off from because we want to go north. We have grass taxiways here in these airports at Flight Simulator 2. Kind of draw your own taxiways. Come on, throttle. Oop. Try hitting the right one. All right. Should be all set to go. Try not to stall here. It's like we talked about our angle of attack before in the last episode. Oh, you serious? The minute we take off, we lose our VSI. For something that is 99% reliable, man, that 1% seems to happen often. Man, if only I could, like, win a jackpot, or, you know, with 1%, like with how the Commodore 64 works. Man, that'd be sweet. You have a 1% chance of winning. Oh, that's not too bad. That means I won't win it today. Probably tomorrow. We'll give ourselves some altitude this time, a little bit higher altitude than what we have been. That way we can maybe see the Mississippi a little bit more than what we have been able to in the past. There are no emergency airports that we can land at along the way. There's nothing in between. So even if we did have a major failure of something that we'd have to land somewhere in the grass and radio for help. Where are you at? On the ground, in the grass. Plane failed. I'm thinking about maybe 5,000 feet, probably. Should give us enough height where we can get a good perspective on the river. No scenery that direction. Use our rudder here to kind of shift our position here. There we go. We don't have our vertical speed indicator, but we can do without it. We just need to watch the altimeter. Now we lose our altimeter, we'll need to do some repairs while we're flying. We could land it very carefully out in the grass somewhere. For the interest of time, however, we will fix things while we're up on in the air. But for the moment, well, we got ourselves a decent sized flight this time around. Let's go ahead and go back to our flight physics lessons here from our flight simulator toolbox, our manual. Alrighty. Drag. This is not the type of stuff, this is not a lifestyle. We have already described drag as a resistive force to the movement of the aircraft. By this definition, drag will always act along a line opposite the aircraft's flight path. There are two types of drag that warrant separate coverage. The first is parasitic drag, kind of like parasite. That drag caused by the physical aircraft displacing and rubbing the airstream. The second type is induced drag, an unusual phenomenon. Peculiar to aircraft. No, that's phenomenon. Anyway, induced drag is a byproduct of the generation of lift. Parasitic drag. You are already familiar with the parasitic drag encountered, for example, when driving a car. Parasitic drag caused by air displacement is called form drag. Maybe that's called like drag racing, right? If you view the front end of a car or an airplane and make a filled-in outline of this view, you will see how much form the vehicle has. It says the vehicle. Streamlining the form can help reduce drag, but assuming good streamlining in all cases, more form means more parasitic drag. Skin friction is roughly proportional to the amount of surface exposed to the airstream. More surface means more drag. Parasitic drag increases non-linearly with increasing airspeed. The dynamic pressure of air is a function of the square of the velocity. Assume that you are moving in your car at a speed of 30 miles per hour. If you accelerate to 60 miles per hour, you will experience 4 times the drag. Cruise at 120 miles per hour, and the drag becomes 16 times as great as it was at 30 miles per hour. This fact assumes a great deal of importance when you realize that thrust is needed to overcome that drag. At 30 miles per hour, your car may require 25 pounds of thrust to sustain speed. At 60 miles per hour, you'll need 100 pounds, and at 120 miles per hour, you'll need 400 pounds of thrust to sustain speed. A typical parasitic drag versus airspeed curve is shown in Figure 9. There is Figure 9. So that way you can see the titles on the sides of the graph there. Induced drag. While creating lift, your airfoil changes the direction of airflow in many ways. You're already familiar with downwash. This downward deflection of air changes the relative wind in the vicinity of the wing to a slightly downward direction. As a result, the true angle of attack is different from the apparent angle of attack derived from the relative wind opposite the flight path. Lift is produced perpendicular to the relative wind direction. A relative wind in a slightly downward direction will give us a real vector with a component toward the rear. This rearward component is known as induced drag. Figure 10 illustrates the concept of induced drag. So here is induced drag. A little bit closer here so that way you can see, maybe see some of the words there. Reduced relative speed. Well, I'm showing you like the text. So there's relative wind, the induced relative wind, the total lift vector, rearward component of lift vector, and vertical reference. The induced drag vector is increased when the angle of attack increases. We got 67 miles, our VOR radio tuned in. Given that weight, bank angle, and other factors are held constant, a slower airspeed demands a higher angle of attack to produce the same lift. Therefore, the slower the airspeed, the greater the induced drag. Figure 11 shows a graph of induced drag versus airspeed. Lots of graphs. So, there is, my goodness. Trying to get it so you can see it. Alright, there's that, and there's that. The top first one was induced drag versus airspeed. Oh, I'm sorry. I was showing you two of them. The first one was Figure 11. That was induced drag versus airspeed. Note that it is nonlinear. As velocity decreases, induced drag increases, inversely proportional to the square of the velocities. This is like all math stuff. The square root of x is equal to the division of z by m minus 2. This phenomenon can be explained when you remember that dynamic pressure from the airstream increases as the square of velocity. Greater dynamic pressure means more lift production. more lift production capability. Drop your airspeed by 1/2 and you only get 1/4 the lift production capability. Therefore, you will need quite an increase in angle of attack to produce the same lift. And induced drag will also increase dramatically. Yeah, it's funny. For a Commodore 64. Oh, really? 99% reliability, and we're losing that much. Come on. We need to do some serious tuning of our aircraft here. This is like heavy duty stuff. This is like heavy duty stuff for you know, a Commodore 64 game / simulator. I mean, you kind of look at this stuff, you're kind of like, It's not all like that, though. I mean, it'll talk about elevator control, taxiing, and stuff like that. Slow flight, VOR departures. So we will get into this. So there's a lot more in here than just a whole bunch of calculus and trigonometry stuff. There's so many of it, and there's lots of flights that we've got planned here that, oh, there's no need to rush and do so many. Okay, we better follow our river here. Without putting our flaps down. There we go. Beginning to see the rest of the river there. Let's get ourselves angled. Yeah, I'd say right about there. That should be good. Due north. And 59 miles to go, and 2 instruments that have decided to go bye-bye. What? 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 Don't give me that look. come here. She's like, no. Our black kitty, she is 17 years old. She's doing very well, too, for her age. Unfortunately, she had a sister that passed away a couple of years ago. She had kidney and liver failure. She was a sweetheart. Sheba was her name. And her sister, that's sitting there crying in the background, is Talia. I'm going to lower my throttle a little bit here because I'm wondering if my altimeter is broken. Because the altimeter is not moving. No, there it goes. Okay, good. I have a pretty good idea of where we are. That's the fork. This is the area that's curving out. So we should start seeing this to move in here once we get to this point. So let's take a look at the map. We are probably right here. So we're looking at this curve. So once we get to this main part of the curve, right about here, we should, that needle for OBS number 2 should center. That'll give us an indication of where we are on this map. And we'll finish that curve, and it's pretty much a straight on up on the river, up to La Crosse, pretty much. And hopefully no more aircraft failures. Because for 1%, and we struck gold twice. Like I said, I wish I was that lucky with 1%. Played a lottery with 1% luck like that. Going to adjust our heading a little bit so that way we can start slowly catching this. We got plenty of time to do that. There we go. Got a little bit of an island here in between the river. Crosse. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at that airport. Let's see if we can see that airport, the Crosse. KLSE. Okay. Well, I'm finding some maps. I was hoping to find an actual picture of the airport. There's one. It's a overview. How about this? Man, aren't there any decent pictures of the airport? That's small. Let's see here. So that's La Crosse Airport right there. And we're going to try to take this runway. 36. Going this way. So it'd be interesting to see if it looks like this on the Commodore 64, if we actually have a river going around this way. Let's see if I can find any other diagrams. I was hoping to find maybe some that were off to an angle, but doesn't seem like a very popular airport for whatever reason. Although, you may find this interesting at the website Fly Away Simulation. There is, try to adjust this here. It's kind of hard to see. Go. We got La Crosse Municipal Airport for FSX. All the buildings, updated terminal with gates, parking for American and Delta, many extras added to make this a nice airport to fly into for general aviation crowd. Added extras for a full working airport. That's kind of cool. So when I fly to these places in the modern simulators, I will look and see if there's any payware or if there's any shareware, downloadable content, whatever. to see if there's anything to help enhance the location that we're going to. All right, let's go ahead and start our descent. We're 39 miles away. We just need to do a gradual descent, nothing major. But yeah, so I try to, try to find some enhancements to try to get the most out of our travel as we go. Because, hey, this is going to be a long tour. And it's not like we'll probably ever fly there again. You might be thinking, like, well, why would you want to buy it if you're only going to go there once? Well, I mean, there again, that's kind of the reason why I would want to get it, because you may never actually see that content otherwise. So it's just kind of nice to maybe see it in use. Our midway point, take a look. Our needle's beginning to move, so we're reaching our midway point, or that more than halfway point. Now we could change that VOR radial again. To give us a new intersection point, to give us an idea of where we are in relation to the airport. But I don't know if we really need to. I mean, we got our DME. I think that might be good enough. This is where the aircraft fails. We wind up like landing in the water. Splash! No, I jumped out with my parachute. I'm good to go. Good to go, good to flow, good to float. It's going to be neat being able to see these in the later simulators to see how this was actually designed. That's essentially how I'm playing these. I'm playing them pretty much in order. So I'll start with Flight Simulator 2. I'll move to the Amiga, and then Flight Simulator 5.1, 98, 2000, 2002, 2004, or FS9, FSX, and then X-Plane 11. Now, somewhere in there, I don't know if at the time of me making this video, I may not have started recording Flight Simulator for Windows 95. I still need to install this in VMware and see if I can get it to work. From what I understand, even though this is considered FS6, it's pretty much just a port of 5.1 with just a few enhancements. So I don't know if it's really worth doing a flight for this if it's just going to look the same. Maybe it is. Maybe people would like to see a comparison between 5.1 and Windows 95. I don't know if there really is too much difference between them. You know, one's DOS and one's Windows. And the one for Windows just has a few extra things with it. I think it came with maybe an extra couple of planes, and I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that on the next flight. Now you might be thinking, man, are we going to be flying a Cessna the whole time? Well, that's all we got on Flight Simulator 2. There is the program called Jet, also by Sublogic, which also can make use of the scenery disks. On the later simulators, what I'm considering on doing is doing some side trips where we'll use like an airliner, and we may go back and visit some of the major airports. And, you know, just like, let's say we get to Dallas or something, and we may do a major flight from like Dallas back to Chicago O'Hare, and then fly back to Dallas, and then pick up where we left off. As far as general aviation, no, we'll switch different planes. Like a Beechcraft Baron. I definitely, want to try to do different planes. To do it all in a Cessna, we've got an opportunity to try, different types of aircraft and stuff. Some of these flights are relatively short, so at least with the Commodore 64, because we don't have really any jet that we can use. Except for that one program. I think once we run out of coverage for the Commodore 64, I may consider using jet when we fly to Hawaii. Oh, there we go. There goes our oil and stuff. This is where we start fixing our aircraft in air. See, something happened. We had an oil leak or something, and it went from high to low, and then we were losing our engine. I mean, come on, the airport is 20 miles away. As a matter of fact, hold on, I'm going to bring this back up again. Come on, one flight and we've had 3 failures. 99% reliability factor? Come on. Okay. And whenever we go in there and come back out, it turns off our plane, so we have to restart it. I hate having to do that though, because I'm okay with like maybe one thing breaking, and then when we get to a fuel box we get to repair it, but we'll say we had a miracle happen. Oh! Or better yet, during this time, we've been busy. We've been busy talking as I'm like sitting there repairing, you know, the VSI. We got a spare one here. Hold on. All right, we got that. So there you go. We use our imagination. That's what we did back with this stuff. Use your imagination. For a 99% reliable aircraft, this was not reliable. It had a variety of things that would break, so I think maybe the radios might break. I can't remember on that one. I know the VORs or the OBSs would break. All of these would break. You have the chance of your engine breaking, so your oil goes all the way to H and your engine breaks. Your light bulb breaks at night. And so, like, then you can't see anything. These all disappear. You know, and then it's just kind of like, oh, you know, it's like, no. I mean, you could just very carefully, you know, try to land your, you know, based on the sound of the aircraft, try to land and hope you don't land in water because it's all dark gray, so you can't really tell. I'm wondering, based on that image that we saw, if the airport is right here. Because remember, we saw that river going around. We'll lower our throttle a little bit more here. And there is the city of La Crosse. You can see the brown up here. having, you know, gyro compass drift and, you know, having to adjust your, you know, make sure your altimeter is not drifting is one thing. But my goodness, I set it at 99% so that way, you know, there's a small, very minute chance that something will break. But there shouldn't be like 3 things breaking in the same flight. Come on. Maybe this airplane is just falling apart. It's like, hey man, you flew me too much. We haven't even begun to fly this thing too much. By the time we get to the West Coast, the wings will fall off. Hey man, what happened to the plane? What happened to the world tour? Well, the wings fell off the plane. We had to cancel the tour. So this is cool. This is happening just as the just like we saw in the graphic. See if I can pull that up again here. There it is. See? It's coming right around. That's cool to see. That is really cool to see. I wonder what this white thing is here. Maybe that's the airport. I think that's actually the airport. Down flaps. Take a look at our radar here and see if we can see. Doesn't look like it. Okay, it doesn't look like the airport's going to be exactly like what we thought. I think it's going to be sitting right here, so we're not going to have a river going around it like we thought. Runway is right here. More flaps. Let's lower our throttle. Definitely lower our throttle because we are getting closer. Don't see the airport yet. Not on the map. I think we might be lined up with that runway, though. Trying to stay locked in on this on the 360 there. Let's hit some more flaps there. Maybe increase our power just a tad. I don't want to stall. Okay, we are off just a bit. Using our map here, our radar, to try to lock in our make sure we're lined up. 2 miles to go. Yes. I think pretty much we landed on the runway, and then the runway decided to kind of slide from underneath us. This one does have fuel, but I'm not sure exactly where it's at. We'll park here in the middle. I think that might be a good place. Right about there. That looks good. This thing has fuel. I don't see it. That's okay. All right, so here we are. We're at La Crosse, Wisconsin. That's about as far north as we can go with the Sublogic scenery discs. And where are we headed to next? Let's pull up the map. So we're going to have another, probably another hour-long flight here. We're going to be going from La Crosse, and we're going to be going to Dane next time. We're going to be flying over here. After Dane, we're going to go back up, and we're going to land at Whitman Field, right next to this tiny little, I don't know, would that be a lake or something? Tiny little lake. And then we'll be coming down here to Sheboygan. So, some things to look forward to. All right. Well, hope you enjoyed this flight. I hope it's somewhat relaxing. Hope you enjoyed my company, and you know, kind of going through some of the stuff in here. You know, I think, you know, that's pretty much the best that we can do with the Commodore 64. There's not much to look at, so hey, why not sit down and talk and just kind of hang out. So I'd love to hear from you. Talk to me in the comments section below. It doesn't have to be a one-way conversation. All right, well, thanks for tuning in. Please check out the other versions of this flight and the other simulators, and I'll see you next time. And if you had fun watching this flight, then you might enjoy watching the same flight on one of these other simulators. It's a great way to compare the difference between them, but it's also a nice way to relive some old memories, or make some new ones. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around in the wild blue yonder.